Back at it again, and we have one with Candace Owens. Let's dive in.
Just want to say, so I'm also the vice president of the NAACP on campus, and so I kind of live in this tension. So the way I kind of feel like reaching out to the Black community works is kind of still get involved in those historically Black organizations and kind of change it from the inside out. And I'm facing like a lot of pushback. Of course, it opens us up to have those kind of conversations about what it means to be Black. That the definition of Black doesn't change just because you have a different set of ideals. And so my question becomes, in these.
Oh, like some politicians have tried to do. If you're a Republican, you ain't Black, or according to Sunny Hostin, you're a Sunny Hostin. I think that's how you say her name. You're an oxymoron. You ain't, or what Joe Biden said. If you don't vote for me, you ain't Black. Craziness.
Just because you have a different set of ideals. And so my question becomes, in these spaces and in these conversations, how do you still honor what it historically what it means to be Black, but still kind of galvanize the Black community to the future and not just looking at the past?
Well, first question, what does it mean historically to be Black?
Well, that like still saying, okay, yeah, it was cool. Brown v. Board of Education. Yeah, we needed certain things to happen, but that's the America that our grandparents and grandparents lived in is not the same America today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you have, and we saw this in another Candace Owens bait with there was an Army veteran, if I remember correct, who was basically trying to live in the past and not in the present. And you see that a lot of the times with these types of debates and situations where people are talking about historically and not the now. And I'm like, wait a second. You never experienced that. Neither did your parents. Your grandparents might not have even experienced anything too crazy. Like we're talking many years ago. Why are we still focusing on that when we're living in the now? But let's hear what Candace Owens has to say.
America that our grandparents and grandparents lived in is not the same America today.
Absolutely.
I always think that the greatest way to honor your past is to embrace your future. Right? So our ancestors lived through a lot of stuff, right? Why? Why did they live that? Why did they survive all of those things? Right? My grandfather, who is alive today, grew up picking cotton, laying tobacco out to dry in an attic. He's my hero. He's my idol. And he worked really hard. Never once in my entire life growing up in his house did he tell me that I couldn't do something because I was Black. Never once growing up in his house did I hear him accuse people of being racist, right? Hear it all the time from people that never lived through anything, right? You'll hear it all the time from Black Lives Matter, CNN host Don Lemon. And to me, it's insulting because I think the greatest way to honor our past is to embrace our future, to realize that we're Americans. They fought through all of that so we could be Americans and be here today.
It's a great point that she mentioned. That's an amazing point that she mentioned. As a Black person, we had ancestors that fought through obviously a lot of crap. We all know that. We could talk about the whole slavery situation, all of that stuff, you know, the fire hoses being sprayed, the dogs, all that stuff. We could talk about all that. We had ancestors that fought through all of that, only for us today to still act like we're oppressed, to still act like we're soft. They fought so that we could be counted as Americans, so that we could be assimilated into America, and yet we still want to talk about. That's a slap in the face to them, I would feel, in my humble opinion, you know, and I'll explain why. Because you had individuals, like I said, who were sprayed with powerful fire hoses, dogs sicked on them, beaten, whipped, all of that, killed, hung. We know the history, right? We know the history. Ancestors went through that. They went through that. They fought so that the people coming behind them, folks like myself, didn't have to go through that. Only for Black people today to still act like we're still going through what they went through. How does that make sense? Make that make sense. It doesn't, right? We should be happy. We should be celebrating every single day. We don't have to go through what they went through. Listen, I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. And listen, I don't mean to be rude or anything like that or disrespectful to the ones that came before me. But I think some of the individuals that live today are being very disrespectful to the people that came before us. That's just my humble opinion. But y'all can let me know how you feel in the comment section. Please, talk to me.
Because I think the greatest way to honor our past is to embrace our future, to realize that we're Americans. They fought through all of that so we could be Americans and be here today. So that's what I'm constantly... That's what I'm doing. I'm just moving forward. I'm saying I no longer have to be held on to the bondages of the past because it's not serving me. It's not serving anybody to be a victim. We already won. Yeah. Slavery doesn't exist. Segregation doesn't exist.
That's another great point too. Some individuals today are still fighting a battle we already won. Make that make any sense. Make it make sense. You're fighting a battle you already won. You're fighting against Casper the Friendly Ghost at this point. Some phantom. Ooh, the boogeyman. Ooh. It's almost like the past is like, you guys ever watch the old school Lion King? Mufasa. Ooh. Mufasa. Ooh. If you haven't seen the cartoon or the movie The Lion King, you probably won't get that reference. I'm sure you can pull up a clip right here on YouTube of Mufasa. I won't put it in this video because it's probably going to get copyrighted, but it's almost like the past is like Mufasa when the hyenas were mentioning him. Ooh, ooh, the past. Ooh, it's the boogeyman. It's ridiculous in my humble opinion, but y'all can let me know how you feel about it, please.
Yeah. Slavery doesn't exist. Segregation doesn't exist. We've had a black president for 2 terms who, by the way, did absolutely nothing for the black community. Nothing. Okay? Absolutely nothing. So we no longer have to think that way. We can just vote somebody into office because they're an American and they believe in the American dream. So I want to commend you for being willing to sort of swim into these territories where people are constantly trying to hold on to the past and telling us why this is so important. People that really have very little understanding of our history. Yeah. Truly, if you speak to them, they have no idea what they're talking about. Nothing. But also be aware that who they're funded by. Be aware the money that's being injected into there and why. So I would say what you're doing is great. I tend to just try to get my ideas in front of people regardless. I don't need an NAACP. As I said earlier, I spoke at an HBCU. Yeah. Being brave enough to stand on the stage and saying, I am American first is what you should do.
So once again, Candace Owens dropping some major truth bombs on us all, of course. But one thing she said that was that I found very interesting and honestly very truthful is that holding on to the past doesn't serve us at all. It does us no good. And once again, I continually go back to the situation where Eric Thomas, who's a motivational speaker, I've mentioned him time and time again, but it's the perfect situation that really describes everything. He said, if somebody pushed you down and I come back a week later and you're still laying on the ground, that's your fault. Except in this situation, right? Our ancestors got pushed down. They got themselves up, brushed themselves off, and started walking again. And now future generations have just collapsed on the ground with nothing happening. And they're crying and complaining and pointing at their ancestors and saying, wait, look what happened to them. The boogeyman is still here. What? Nobody pushed you down. Not a single, nothing happened to you. You're pointing at your ancestors who, yeah, they got pushed down, but they got themselves up and started walking again. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, right? And now you're pointing at the ghost of the past, saying that it's still right here. So a ghost pushed you down? I don't know. I just try to make sense of it, and it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely ridiculous. And like I said earlier, it's a slap in the face to the people that had to actually go through these horrible and terrible, no good, very bad situations. It's the way that I see it. It's a slap in the face to them. Fought through all that just for people today to still act like victims. The real victims were the ancestors. If the people of today are victims, then what are our ancestors? What do you call that? Because that has to be like a whole other level of a victim, I don't know. This stuff is just ridiculous. And I wish people would just open their eyes and stop pointing to race and stop pointing to the past and things that you've never experienced or gone through and saying the system, this phantom is holding me down, where everywhere around you see examples of people who have succeeded regardless of their skin color, regardless of where they came from. It's just mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. And I was watching something. I forgot what I was watching. Maybe I watched it with you guys. But there was a video where they were talking about black people who were actually born in Africa, immigrants, African immigrants who came to America and look around at black people that are actually born in America and laugh at us. They laugh. Why? Because we're so privileged. And a lot of us don't even know. It's like, man, y'all got it so good and y'all over here crying and complaining. Some of the richest people in America are black people who immigrated from Africa, who came from Africa and realized, oh yeah, there's a whole lot of opportunities over here. I'm about to take advantage of this. I'm about to put in this work. Nobody care about my skin color. That's a phantom. It's a ghost. And yet you have a lot of black people who were born here that are just crying and complaining. And yeah, I don't know. It's absolutely, I forgot which video that was. If anybody remembers, let me know. I might have watched it on my own, but I feel like I may have made a video on it too. So yeah, let me know if you remember which video that was. But anyway, let me know what you thought about all of this in the comment section below. Hit that like button, helps out with the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you guys continually hit that like button. We got to fight back against this YouTube algorithm. They're trying to suppress these vids, but it won't happen. It won't happen. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Hit that arrow button down below so you can share this video too. All right, that helps out tremendously as well. Thank you to every single last one of you that continually post my videos on social media, that send it out to your friends. I mean, you can text it to anybody, your neighbor, whatever. I don't care. Send it to anybody, okay? I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Peace and love. I'm out.